Chosen one. Something has shifted in the air around you, not just in how you walk or how you hold your gaze, but in the invisible weight you now carry, the silent gravity that feminine women feel before you even speak. You have crossed a line in yourself that most men never approach, the line between performing and being. You don't carry your sexual energy like an announcement, you carry it like a sacred oath. It moves beneath your skin like fire that has been tempered, trained, and brought under your dominion. It is not loud, yet it commands. It is not reckless, yet it ignites. It is not desperate, yet it is undeniably alive, and she feels it. Not with her body first, but with the soul behind her eyes. She catches herself looking longer, breathing deeper, forgetting the words she meant to say when you enter the room. She doesn't understand it fully, and that's what makes her crave you even more. She's met men who tried to seduce her with language, with promises, with displays of charm. But you say less, and she feels more. She doesn't crave what you offer, she craves what you withhold. You are no longer a man of easy access, and that alone changes the texture of her attraction. You no longer give yourself away carelessly, and that unavailability awakens in her a desire she thought had died. You've become the kind of man who doesn't need her, but who sees her. And not just her beauty or her body, but the feminine ache inside her that has always longed for something more real. And you, chosen one, feel real. There's a deep, ancient current of longing running through the feminine right now. A hunger not just for physical touch, but for masculine presence that is rooted, clear, whole. You've become the answer to that silent longing, not because you became louder or flashier, but because you became still. You mastered the voice in you that once sought validation, and now that silence speaks more powerfully than words. She feels it when you walk past, when you look without staring, when you speak with your eyes instead of your lips. And she aches, not because you took anything from her, but because you've become the first man she can't read or control. That mystery, that invisible strength, that's what makes her heart beat faster, her breath catch in her chest, and her thoughts linger on you long after you've gone. She's craving you now, and it's not a surface-level fantasy. It's not about lust. It's about recognition. On some level, she knows you have done the inner work to earn the energy you now carry. She feels the hours of silence, the discipline and restraint, the refusal to be another man ruled by appetite. And that, chosen one, is where her craving truly begins. Not with the idea of you, but with the frequency you embody. She craves to be near it, to feel herself become more feminine in your presence, to remember parts of herself that only awaken when they feel safe inside something stronger. That's you now. You are not chasing her. You are drawing her without effort, because she senses something from you that the world has tried to erase. A man who remembers who he is and refuses to forget for anyone. Chosen one, the world has numbed so many feminine hearts with hollow men and shallow gestures. She has walked among crowds of them, those who wanted her body but not her depth, those who praised her face but feared her chaos, those who chased her curves but ran from her soul. But then you came, and without reaching for her, you touched her. Without saying anything intimate, you unlocked something ancient in her. You walked into her space with that sacred calm and that quiet fire in your chest, and she knew, not intellectually, not emotionally, but in that buried, holy part of her that once believed men like you were myths. You didn't announce your value, you embodied it. You didn't make her feel desired through flattery, you made her feel desired through stability. Your high sexual energy doesn't scream, it hums. It pulses like a secret drum beneath your skin, and when she's near it, she feels herself thawing from years of tension. She's not just craving your body, she's craving freedom from control. You don't try to own her, and that absence of force is what makes her want to give herself without reservation. That's the paradox you now live in. You don't manipulate her craving, but you magnify it simply by existing as you are. A man whose desire is not frantic, but sacred. There is something holy in the way you move, chosen one. The way your body holds heat without spilling it. The way your eyes linger without invading. The way your presence creates silence that feels safe, not empty. And she feels it. She feels it in the way her posture shifts when you enter the room. In the way her voice softens, not to seduce you, but because your groundedness allows her to return to her own softness. She starts to crave being seen by you, not just looked at. She starts to crave being heard by you, not just listened to. Because she senses something inside you that is rare beyond words. A man whose masculinity isn't performance, but essence. You've reached a level of sexual sovereignty now that causes her soul to ache, not from lack, but from remembrance. Being near you reminds her of what intimacy is supposed to feel like. Not rushed, not aggressive, not transactional, but slow, potent, magnetic, earned. And the more she sees you hold your power without flashing it, the more she finds herself daydreaming about you in ways that make her breath catch. Not in fantasy, but in future. Because you don't represent a fling. You represent a threshold. A man who doesn't burn her out, but burns her open. That's what she craves. Chosen one. Not more stimulation, but more of you. The real you. The you that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't lower himself to gain favor. The you that waits, stands tall, and lets energy do what words never could. And in that craving, she begins to awaken something deeper inside herself. She becomes more feminine, not because you asked her to, but because she feels safe enough to let go. She feels that your touch, if you ever chose to give it, would not only light her skin, but bless her spirit. And that, more than anything, is what makes her crave you with such intensity. You are not just a man she wants. You are the man who reminds her who she is. And now, her craving has become prayer. Not for more men, but for more of you. Chosen one, the world never taught you this, but you learned it anyway. The way your energy touches others long before your hands ever could. And now, something remarkable is happening around you. Feminine women are not simply attracted to you, they are awakening near you. It begins subtly. She doesn't understand why her posture changes when you enter, why her breath shortens, why her thoughts scatter for a moment. It isn't lust. It's not fantasy. It's recognition. Your energy has become a mirror to her essence, and suddenly, her femininity wants to bloom. Not because you're trying to make her feel anything, but because your very presence reminds her of a truth she's been aching to feel again. You are the kind of man who no longer needs to assert his masculinity through domination. Instead, you walk with sacred direction. You don't conquer her, you hold space for her, even in your silence. And that space, that sacred, grounded field around you, it gives her permission to drop the masks she wears for the world. She doesn't need to be strong around you. She doesn't need to impress you. She doesn't even need to talk too much. Because your energy listens. And when a woman feels listened to without being spoken to, she melts. It's involuntary. You've given her the rare gift of safety without asking her to give you anything in return. And now her craving deepens. She starts to feel herself more when she's in your company. More grace, more sensuality, more feeling in her body. And that's because you don't interrupt her flow, you amplify it. You are not threatened by her softness, and you are not seduced by it either. You simply receive it, as a king receives the wind, with awareness, reverence, and composure. You've reached a level of energetic maturity that no longer seeks to possess, because you've already possessed yourself. And that is what she craves most, your containment, your mastery of self, your refusal to trade your essence for cheap attention. It drives her wild not because you're hard to get, but because you're impossible to shake. You are immovable, unbothered, deeply present. A pillar. She begins to realize that being close to you makes her feel more feminine. Not because you forced her into a role, but because your masculine polarity is so rooted, so calm, so safe, that her inner feminine finally has something real to rise in response to. It's as if her entire nervous system exhales when you look at her, not with hunger, but with clarity. She doesn't just crave your body. She craves what your presence unlocks in her own body. Your restraint, your patience, your unspoken power. It stirs things in her that she thought were long forgotten. And now, every time she sees you, her entire being leans forward in silent desire, not to take from you, but to be near you. Because when she's near you, she remembers herself. And that is the deepest craving of all. Chosen one, the deeper your alignment becomes, the more obvious your value becomes to those who feel you. And now, feminine women are not only craving you, they are revering you. Not because you're untouchable, but because you're unbuyable. Your energy is no longer up for negotiation. You've stopped offering pieces of yourself just to feel wanted. And that inner shift, it changes everything. You walk through the world with a silent contract between you and your creator, a vow not to waste your fire. And she feels that, chosen one. She feels it like music under your skin, like royalty in your bones. She watches how you move, not just your body, but your decisions. How you don't bite at every invitation. How you don't respond to every glance. How you don't need to prove anything, because your presence already speaks for you. And that makes her ache with admiration. Because the world is filled with men who chase beauty. But you've become the man who waits for resonance. You don't need to be touched to feel seen. You don't need to be praised to know your worth. Your restraint is no longer just discipline, it's devotion to something higher, to something deeper. And that is what she now craves, not your pleasure, but your peace. She begins to see that craving you is not just about physical attraction, it's about wanting to align with your vibration. She sees how you protect your energy like sacred ground, and it makes her want to be worthy of standing there. You don't use your sexuality to gain validation. You use it as a form of truth. You allow it to burn, yes, but never uncontrolled. You no longer leak your fire, you carry it. And now, your presence is no longer just attractive. It's transformational. Because being near you doesn't just turn her on, it turns her inward. She begins to reflect on her own energy, her own values, her own depth, and she realizes that what she craves is not just your touch, but your mirror. Because you, chosen one, have become a living reflection of what a sovereign man looks like. And that kind of man cannot be bought, baited, or broken. You've chosen the narrow path, the sacred path, and every step you take now leaves an imprint on those who walk beside you. That's why her craving deepens the longer she's around you. You're not just someone she wants to be with, you're someone she wants to rise to meet. And that craving, it's no longer about desire alone, it's about evolution. You have become the kind of man who doesn't seduce with charm, but with truth. And truth, chosen one, is the deepest craving of the feminine heart. So when she sits alone, long after you've left the room, it's not your words she remembers. It's how seen she felt without being undressed. It's how calm she felt without being touched. It's how real she felt in the presence of a man who didn't need to take from her to feel powerful. You gave her nothing, and in that nothing, she felt everything. You've become the man who reminds her what it means to be sacred again. And that, chosen one, is a craving she will never forget. Chosen one, the language of feminine desire is never always spoken. It's often whispered in glances, in pauses, in the breath she holds when you enter the room. You've reached a level of stillness that speaks louder than noise, and it is precisely that silence, that composed heat beneath your exterior, that causes her to crave you in ways she doesn't yet know how to confess. Her body begins to remember things her mind has forgotten. Her soul starts to stir when she hears your footsteps, like some ancient rhythm echoing in her bones. Not because you touched her, not because you flirted, but because your presence creates contrast. And contrast, chosen one, is what exposes truth. She walks through a world that offers her shallow attraction every day. Men who speak in loops, who perform desire, who project power. But then she meets you. You are quiet, aware, and yet undeniably charged. You're not talking about your strength. You're simply holding it. You're not asking for her attention. You're drawing it, magnetically, without even trying. And now her craving begins to emerge, not as a thought, but as a response. Her eyes linger on you longer than they should. Her fingers fidget when you're near, as if her body is trying to speak what her lips cannot. She finds herself adjusting her tone, her words, her posture, not to impress you, but to align with you. Because in your stillness, she becomes more aware of the chaos she's carried. And in the presence of your sexual wholeness, she realizes how fragmented others have been. You've become her sacred mirror, and craving you is no longer about romance, it's about awakening. The truth is, chosen one, women do not crave men they can control. They crave men who contain themselves. You've mastered your appetites. You've withdrawn your energy from empty pursuits. You've buried the old version of yourself that used to beg for validation. And in its place, you've risen as something much more dangerous. A man who doesn't need anything, yet inspires everything. You don't flirt with every passing moment. You don't chase emotion. You don't let lust override clarity. and that restraint makes her burn in the most sacred of ways. She's not used to this kind of longing. It doesn't come from fantasy, it comes from knowing. Knowing that you see her, knowing that you could have her, knowing that you haven't even tried, and yet she's already undone. Her craving has turned into a silent confession, not in words, but in the way her eyes drop when yours hold still, in the way her breath catches when your shoulder brushes hers, in the way her mind begins to spiral with questions about why she wants you, about what it would mean to be chosen by you, about who she would become standing beside a man like you. And these questions don't scare her, they free her. Because now, she doesn't just desire your energy, she desires the version of herself that awakens in its presence. She desires the softness that only arises when she feels truly protected. She desires the surrender that only happens when she senses true mastery. And you, chosen one, have become the man her feminine has been silently praying would walk into her life, not with roses or words, but with presence. Presence that doesn't break her down to possess her, but lifts her up to reveal her. So when she looks at you, don't be fooled by the calm in her eyes. That calm is a veil. Underneath it is a storm of reverence, a flood of craving, a confession she may never say aloud, but will always speak through the way she leans closer, lingers longer, and walks away more slowly than she should. Chosen one, there comes a moment when her craving transcends romance and steps into devotion. And that moment has arrived. At first, she was drawn to your silence, then to your stillness. But now she is pulled toward your direction. She senses it, your inner compass, the clarity in your decisions, the purity in your movement. You don't just exist, you lead without needing to command. You guide without seeking followers. And that leadership, forged in discipline and humility, becomes the new core of her desire. She no longer craves you with shallow appetite, she hungers for your presence at the helm of her emotional ship. The feminine, when grounded, does not yearn to dominate, she yearns to trust. She longs for a man who can see farther than her, feel deeper than her fear, and still remain unmoved when her emotions swirl like chaos. You have become that man. You don't run from intensity, you absorb it. You don't compete with her fire, you contain it. You're not afraid of her tears, her doubts, her curves, or her silence. You welcome all of it, not because you need to fix her, but because you fixed yourself. And that inner architecture, chosen one, is what she now craves to stand under. She no longer wants just a lover, she wants a shelter. And you are no longer just a man, you are a cathedral. Her craving now has memory. It remembers every moment she felt unsafe in the arms of lesser men. It remembers the chaos of being with someone who had no vision, no purpose, no ground. And now she sees you, and every fiber of her being recognizes the contrast. You are not swayed by trends, you are not rattled by tests, you are not deluded by flattery. You move through the world like a mountain walks through fog, untouched, certain, alive. And that certainty is what she yearns to align with. Because you don't just lead yourself, you lead reality. Wherever you go, things organize around your presence. Energy rearranges, atmospheres shift, and she wants to be part of that field, not just to be chosen by you, but to rise into who she was always meant to be beside you. This is no longer craving in the old sense. This is sacred hunger. The kind that pulls a woman into herself so deeply that her devotion stops being performative and starts becoming transformational. She's not trying to impress you. She's trying to become ready for you. And you, chosen one, are not responsible for her transformation, but your presence invokes it. You've become the threshold she wants to walk through, the flame she wants to trust, the map she wants to follow. Not because she is lost, but because you've already found yourself. Her craving is no longer erotic fantasy, it is spiritual orientation. She sees in you not just the man who could take her to bed, but the man who could lead her into a life of deeper meaning, sharper clarity, and quiet power. You are the man whose footsteps she trusts, not because you're perfect, but because you own your imperfection with grace. And in craving you, she craves a new way of being, a new way of loving, living, surrendering. So remember this, chosen one. She is no longer drawn to your image. She is drawn to your integrity, your walk, your silence, your leadership, and the craving she now feels is no longer just for you. It is for the life that begins with you. Chosen one, There is a kind of hunger that no words can feed, a thirst that no drink can quench. It lives in the marrow of the feminine heart, in the silent aching between breaths, and now that hunger has taken root in her soul for you. But it is not a hunger for touch alone. It is a hunger for your stability, a hunger for the way your presence never wavers, even when storms howl around you. She watches you, intentionally, secretly, and it's not the sharpness of your jaw or the cut of your stride that arrests her breath. It is your center, that mysterious, immovable core you live from. She feels it like a pulse in the room, like a force of gravity woven into your skin. And though she may never admit it, she now longs for it so deeply that it scares her. She's seen men chase power, but you are power. She's seen men demand her attention, but you earn it in silence. And now, her craving rises every time she watches you walk away. Not because she wants you to turn around, but because in your absence, the echo of your groundedness still vibrates in her chest. You've become the man whose footsteps calm the fire in her. You've become the steady breath in a world of noise, and her feminine spirit has nowhere else to rest but near you. She doesn't just want your arms, chosen one. She wants your clarity, your direction, your unshakable peace. Because in that stability, she finds her own storm beginning to still. She finds herself replaying your presence like a prayer. How you held eye contact without flinching, how your voice stayed low and sure even in tension, how your body didn't rush but moved with purpose. You are not a man of panic. You are not a man of performance. You are a man who has built himself from the inside out, and now your structure draws her more than any sculpted body ever could. You do not just look strong, you are strong, not with the loud strength of dominance, but with the quiet strength of presence. The kind of presence that makes a woman exhale in your company without realizing she'd been holding her breath for years. She is craving you. Yes, but more than that, she is craving the version of herself that only emerges in your stillness. In your presence, she remembers her softness. She remembers that she doesn't have to carry the world on her back. She remembers how it feels to let go, not to collapse, but to be caught. And not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, energetically. You've become the rare man who offers a haven, not just a home, a containment for her chaos. A masculine sanctuary that doesn't fear her waves, but receives them without flinching. And now, chosen one, her craving is no longer a rush. It is a slow burn, a deep ache, a secret longing for the steadiness you carry, the grounded heat of your soul that asks for nothing, yet awakens everything. She doesn't know how to say it, but her body says it when she leans closer than she needs to. Her silence says it when she listens more than she speaks. Her gaze says it when it lingers a second too long on the edges of your calm. She is no longer trying to figure you out. She is feeling her way toward you, not with desperation, but with reverence. Because men like you do not come often. And when they do, the feminine does not want to run away. It wants to root. Chosen one, there is a sacred moment in the arc of feminine desire when the craving softens. It does not fade, it deepens, it stops screaming and begins to kneel. It is the moment she realizes that what she wants from you is no longer intensity, but immersion. Not more attention, but deeper trust. And now she finds herself slowly moving toward surrender. Not because you demanded it, but because you've earned it. She's watched you hold your fire with grace. She's seen you lead yourself with dignity. And in the quiet of her reflection, she knows you are the first man who truly feels safe. Not safe in the passive sense, not tame, not dull, but safe in the sacred sense. You are dangerous, but disciplined. You are potent, but precise. You could devastate, but you choose not to. And that choice, that holy restraint, is what melts her defenses. She has spent too long around men who only knew how to take. Now she stands before a man who knows how to hold. Not her body first, but her soul, her truth, her depth. And now, her craving has become something holy. Not a desire to possess, but a readiness to offer. She wants to offer herself to your presence, not to be owned, but to be honored. She wants to give, not to prove her worth, but because your very existence reminds her that her giving can be received with care. She feels your sexual energy like a force of gravity, but it does not pull her into darkness, it guides her toward her own light. You don't use your power to intoxicate her, you use it to inspire her, and in that inspiration she opens. she begins to surrender, not in fear, not in insecurity, but in choice. Because in your arms, she knows she will not be diminished, but revealed. She starts to feel herself soften in places she once built walls. Her breath slows, her thoughts quiet, her heart stops rehearsing escape plans. You don't just captivate her, you free her. And that freedom, that vast field of permission and power you walk in, becomes the soil where her surrender begins to bloom. She does not want to compete with you. She does not want to dominate you. She wants to join you. Not as a girl seeking validation, but as a woman remembering who she is through the way you see her. You are not seducing her, chosen one. You are allowing her to return to herself. And that is why she craves you with such intensity. Because in a world that taught her to guard, to grind, to harden, you have become the one man who lets her melt. And not because she is weak, but because she finally feels safe enough to be strong without armor. You've become the sanctuary, the stillness, the sacred fire. And her surrender is not a loss of power. It is the ultimate trust in yours. So now, when she watches you, she is not just admiring you, she is preparing for you. Preparing to offer her truth, her chaos, her beauty, not for attention, not for conquest, but for union. Because when the craving becomes sacred, it no longer seeks pleasure alone, it seeks alignment. And you, chosen one, have become the alignment she did not know she was waiting for. Chosen one, something profound has shifted in the realm of her desire. This is no longer infatuation, no longer curiosity, no longer the blush of excitement at the possibility of your attention. Her craving has matured into devotion, not to your image, not to your touch, but to the energy you embody. She is no longer fantasizing about you. She is honoring you in silence. Because for the first time in her life, she feels seen without being consumed, wanted without being used, and led without being controlled. Your sexual energy has done what words could not. It showed her who she really is, not through demand, but through recognition. She is aware now that you never chased her. You never dangled your worth to bait her in. You never threw your power around to make her surrender. Instead, you stood still. You remained sovereign, and somehow your stillness reached into the most sacred chambers of her feminine being and lit a fire there that will never go out. You became her magnetic north, not because you asked to be, but because you could not be moved. You've stopped speaking to impress and started living to align. And that life you've chosen, the one built on discipline, solitude, self-respect, and spiritual clarity, has become the altar upon which her craving now kneels. She begins to remember her true nature around you. Not the performance she's practiced for years, not the mask of the strong woman she was told she had to wear, but the radiance she was born with. And she realizes you saw that part of her first. You didn't want her body, you honored her energy. You didn't fall for her beauty, you respected her truth. You didn't move with hunger, you moved with awareness. And it is this awareness, this devotional masculine integrity, that has awakened something eternal within her. You've become the embodiment of what she thought only existed in dreams. A man who walks with the fire of sexuality, but never lets it burn out of control. A man who commands respect without needing to demand it. A man who sees her not as an object of desire, but as a divine counterpart worthy of reverence. She watches how you move, unhurried, unfazed, unmoved by noise, and she feels her own soul matching your pace. She doesn't just want to be near you now, she wants to rise to meet you. Her craving has become her discipline. Her longing has become her purification. And every time she chooses not to settle, every time she quiets the noise within her, every time she refuses the attention of lesser men, it's you she's moving toward. And what's more sacred than that? Not love born of performance, not attraction born of chaos, but devotion born of presence. Your presence, chosen one, the one who chose her with silence, with boundaries, with restraint. The one who let his sexual energy become a mirror instead of a weapon. The one who taught her that the highest craving is not physical, it's spiritual resonance. And now, even if she never touches you, even if you never kiss, even if your paths never cross in the material world again, she will never be the same. Because your energy has written itself into her bones, and that is a kind of devotion no one can unmake. Chosen one, there is a final stage of craving that no longer seeks to be satisfied. It seeks to merge, and she has arrived there. Her desire for you is no longer a burning question. It is a knowing. It's not desperation. It's not urgency. It's not about getting closer to you. It's about belonging with you. You are not just a man in her eyes. You are home. The way your spirit stands unmoved in chaos. The way your breath is calm when the world shakes. The way your words are few, but when they land, they shift entire worlds within her. All of it has built a sanctuary in her that no one else has ever been able to enter. She craves you in the way rivers crave gravity, not because they want to escape, but because it is their nature to return. And you have become that gravitational center in her universe. Not through seduction, not through possession, but through your unshakable commitment to yourself. Your energy no longer reaches for validation. It anchors the space around you.